Verstappen did not need anyone to explain Hamilton's pole. The data did it for him. Because when Hamilton put Ferrari on sprint pole at Silverstone, it was not just another fast lap. It was a warning shot at one of the most revealing tracks in Formula One, where fake pace usually gets exposed, tires get punished, and weak balance cannot hide for long. And that is what makes this so dangerous. Ferrari was not supposed to look this complete. Not at Silverstone. Not in sprint qualifying. Not with Hamilton suddenly sitting at the front, while every rival team has almost no time to react. So now Verstappen, Red Bull, Mercedes, McLaren, and the entire grid are trapped inside one brutal question. Was Hamilton's pole just one perfect lap? Or did the data reveal that Ferrari has found real sprint pace? Because if Ferrari only peaked once, Verstappen could attack. But if the car can repeat that speed, defend the straights, protect the tires, and give Hamilton clean air from the front, then this is no longer a surprise. It is a problem. And the most frightening part is simple. The pole was not the final answer. It was the first clue that Hamilton's Ferrari might be fast again when the sprint actually begins. Silverstone is where Hamilton's pole stopped being a headline and became a threat. Because at some circuits, a surprise result can be explained away. Maybe the tires switched on perfectly. Maybe the wind helped. Maybe the track improved at the right second. Maybe the car found one clean lap, but nothing more. But Silverstone does not make excuses easy. Silverstone tests everything. It tests straight line speed, because a car has to carry momentum without dragging itself through the air. It tests high-speed balance, because the fastest corners punish even the smallest hesitation. It tests tire control, because sliding through long corners can turn one good lap into a painful sprint. And it tests driver confidence, because the driver has to commit before the car has fully proved it will stay with him. That is why Verstappen would study Hamilton's pole differently from everyone else. A casual fan sees first place. A rival champion sees danger. He sees the question behind the lap. Did Ferrari just peak for one moment? Or did Hamilton uncover a car that can actually fight from the front? Did the pole come from a perfect tire window or from a Ferrari that finally connected the lap properly? Was the speed isolated or was it usable? That last word matters most. Usable, because usable pace is what wins sprints. Not just the fastest flash. Not just one heroic lap. Usable pace means a car gives the driver something he can carry into the race. It gives him confidence at corner entry, stability through the fast sections, clean exits onto the straights, enough tire life to defend without falling apart. And if Hamilton has usable pace, the entire sprint changes, because Hamilton starting at the front is not just about position, it is about control. Clean air helps the leader. The car behaves more predictably. The tires can be managed more carefully. The driver chooses a pace instead of reacting to turbulence from the car ahead. Behind him, everything becomes harder. The chasing car sits in disturbed air. The front tires may lose bite. The driver has to push harder just to stay close. And at Silverstone, pushing harder is dangerous because the tires do not forgive endless sliding. That is where Hamilton can create the trap. The rival pushes through the fast corners to stay close. The tires start to heat. The exit becomes weaker. The Ferrari stretches away down the straight. The rival pushes even harder next lap. The tires suffer again. That is not a dramatic collapse. It is worse. It is a slow loss of options. And Verstappen would understand that instantly because he knows how powerful control from the front can be. A lead does not need to be huge to be deadly. Sometimes the strongest lead is the one that stays just outside attack range, close enough to frustrate the driver behind, but far enough to stop the move from becoming real. That is what Hamilton's pole data threatens to reveal. Not just speed, a race shape. Hamilton in clean air, Ferrari protecting the straights, rivals forced to attack early, tires under pressure, the sprint shrinking lap by lap. And that is why the first laps become critical. If Verstappen, Red Bull, Mercedes, or McLaren can attack immediately, they can test Ferrari before Hamilton settles. They can force him to defend. They can make him use the tires. They can find out whether the pole was a flash or the beginning of something repeatable. But if Hamilton survives the opening phase, the whole mood changes. The Ferrari settles. The rhythm begins. The crowd grows louder. The chasing cars start spending more to stay close. And then the question inside every rival garage becomes much darker. Did we already miss the best chance? That question is dangerous, because when a team believes the best chance is passing, it starts to gamble. A driver brakes later than planned. An engineer asks for more pace while watching tire temperatures rise. A strategist becomes less patient. A rival stops racing calmly and starts racing the fear of Hamilton getting away. That is how Ferrari can turn a pole into pressure. And that pressure is exactly why Verstappen would not ignore the data. Because the data does not only say Hamilton was fast once. It asks whether Ferrari can do it again when the tires are no longer perfect, when the air is dirty behind him, when every rival is pushing, and when the sprint stops being a lap and becomes a fight. If the answer is no, the pole becomes a moment. If the answer is yes, the pole becomes a warning. And that is the first real reason this story matters. Hamilton did not only take sprint pole at Silverstone, he forced Verstappen and every rival behind him to wonder whether Ferrari has finally found the kind of pace that becomes stronger from the front. The second layer is where Verstappen's problem becomes bigger than Hamilton's pole, because a pole can be attacked. Control has to be broken. And that is the difference every rival will be trying to understand after Silverstone sprint qualifying. Hamilton had already shown that Ferrari could produce the lap, but the more dangerous question was whether Ferrari could protect the race that comes after it. That is where Verstappen would know the threat immediately. If Hamilton's Ferrari is only quick for one lap, the sprint will expose it. The tires will start to fade. The car will become harder to place. The chasing drivers will feel the weakness. The pole will become a moment, but not a weapon. But if Ferrari has real sprint pace, then Verstappen is not chasing a lucky lap. He is chasing a car that can turn track position into pressure. And that changes everything. Because Hamilton at the front does not need to drive like he is desperate. He does not need to burn the tires in the first laps. He does not need to defend every corner like the race is already slipping away. If the Ferrari gives him enough pace, he can do something much more dangerous. He can manage. That word sounds calm. It is not. In Formula One, management from the front can be brutal. It means choosing the pace, choosing the tire temperature, choosing when to push and when to protect, choosing where the driver behind is allowed to get close, and where the door closes before the attack becomes real. That is the kind of race Hamilton understands deeply. He can make the gap look possible, but not available. He can keep a rival close enough to believe the move is coming, while quietly making that rival spend more tire life, more battery, and more patience than he spends himself. And at Silverstone, that is especially dangerous, because the chasing car has to fight through disturbed air and fast corners. The front tires may lose bite. The driver has to ask more from the car just to stay close. And every tiny slide through a long, loaded corner creates a cost that shows up later. A weaker exit, a hotter tire, a missed run down the straight, a move that dies before the braking zone. That is the loop Verstappen would be watching for. Hamilton exits cleanly. Ferrari stretches the gap. The rival pushes harder next lap. The tires complain. The exit gets worse. Ferrari stretches the gap again. It does not need to look dramatic. It only needs to happen enough times. That is why Hamilton's pole data is so important. It forces rivals to decide whether they are facing a Ferrari that can repeat or a Ferrari that only peaked. And in a sprint, they do not get much time to find out. A full Grand Prix gives teams options. Strategy can unfold. Tires can create phases. Pit stops can reset the fight. But a sprint is shorter, sharper, and less forgiving. If the first plan is wrong, the race may be gone before the second plan arrives. So Verstappen and every rival behind him face a brutal decision. Attack early and risk hurting the tires. Wait and risk giving Hamilton rhythm. Push through dirty air and risk losing grip. Protect the car and risk watching Ferrari control the race. There is no comfortable answer. That is what makes the pole so dangerous. It does not only put Hamilton first, it forces everyone else into a decision before they know the full truth about Ferrari's pace. And Hamilton can use that uncertainty. If a rival attacks too soon, he can defend calmly and let them pay the tire price. If a rival waits too long, he can build rhythm. If the cars behind fight each other, he gains clean air. If teams hesitate while trying to understand the Ferrari, he gains control. That is how a sprint can shift without one dramatic moment. No huge overtake, no obvious mistake, no sudden collapse. Just Hamilton making the race slightly more expensive for everyone behind him, lap after lap. That is the kind of pressure Verstappen would respect immediately, because Verstappen knows the power of leading from strength. He knows how clean air changes a car. He knows how a stable gap can break the patience of the driver behind. He knows that a rival does not have to be miles ahead to be difficult to beat. Sometimes, the hardest car to pass is the one that stays just far enough away. That is the danger of Hamilton's Ferrari. If the data points to usable sprint pace, then the fight is no longer only about overtaking him. It is about disrupting him before the rhythm begins. It is about forcing Ferrari into defense before the tires settle. It is about making Hamilton react, instead of letting him dictate. But that is easier to say than to do, because Hamilton starting from pole at Silverstone carries emotional weight. The crowd responds differently. The circuit feels different. The pressure becomes bigger for everyone chasing him. A move against Hamilton there does not feel like a normal move. It feels like trying to interrupt a story that the whole circuit wants to see continue. That matters. Drivers are human. Teams are human. Even the most disciplined garage feels the weight of momentum when the grandstands are roaring and the red car is at the front. And if Ferrari believes in the pace, that confidence spreads. The driver trusts the car more. The engineers trust the setup more. The strategy becomes clearer. The team stops reacting and starts controlling. That is exactly what rivals do not want. Because a confident Ferrari with Hamilton at the front is not the same as a Ferrari hoping to survive. One is defensive. The other is dangerous. This is where the pole becomes a psychological weapon. Before the sprint begins, every rival has to account for Hamilton. Every plan has to include Ferrari. Every start scenario has to ask whether the first lap is the only real chance. Every tire plan has to consider the cost of chasing in dirty air. That split focus is expensive. A team that is fully focused on its own race makes clean decisions. A team that is focused on Hamilton starts carrying extra fear. What if he has more pace? What if the tires hold? What if the Ferrari is stronger on the straights?